Howdy, and welcome to another episode of Untold Tales from This Side of Nowhere. As always, I'm your host, Connor Jones, and I am joined on this episode by not one, but two very special guests. But first, a message from our sponsors. This week, our sponsor is Basin Pharmacy in Basin, Wyoming. Basin Pharmacy is your hometown pharmacy, as well as your source for over-the-counter medicine, vitamins and supplements, office supplies, Russell Stover chocolates, and greeting cards. You can stop in Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturdays from 9 a.m. to noon. We're also sponsored by the Wyoming Welcome Program. The folks at the Wyoming Welcome Program are excited to announce that they are looking for new sponsors to participate in their Table Talk brochures. They place these brochures on restaurant tables in Cody and Powell that are filled with fun facts about Wyoming, jokes, and the month's holidays. In addition to this information, they include advertisements from local businesses. So if you're interested in being included in a brochure and getting your business name out there, please send them an email. Their service is affordable and effective. So contact them at Haley J, that's HALEYJ, at WyomingWelcome.com. And now, the podcast. As I mentioned, I'm joined tonight by two special guests, though my wife informs me that since she is my spouse, she's not a guest. So yeah, I'm welcoming her back for her second appearance on the podcast. Here's my wife, Haley Jones.
Hello.
She's excited to be here. Don't let her fool you. And the second guest cannot actually introduce himself because he's actually just a couple weeks old. But we're also joined tonight by our newest member of the family, William Blaine Jones. So yeah, he's right here laying on my lap, pretty content. We'll see if he does make a guest appearance on this episode. Yeah. So he was born 2 Fridays ago.
Yeah.
And you want to give him all the stats?
Yes. So William was born 4 weeks early, whopping 6 pounds, 6 ounces, and he was 18 inches long. He came out fast and was all bruised up and wasn't breathing very well. And so he gave us a little bit of a scare and was on CPAP, and he also wanted to make an entrance into this world. So we were able to go on ambulance rides and airplane ride to the Billings Hospital, to the NICU. We were there for a few days, but he recovered and he's doing so well now. We came home last Wednesday. So been a blessing. Been exciting.
Yeah, he's adorable.
Yes.
But having a new baby has made me think a lot about our experiences with having children. This is number 3, and today's story is entitled The First One. So this is going to be some of my memories of having our first boy, Ruben. You ready?
Sure am.
Okay, well, whenever you need to jump in, just let me know. Here we go. Imagine what would happen if they let just anyone drive a car. Imagine if the law was such that as long as you could get in the driver's seat, reach the pedals, and turn the wheel, they would just let you drive. Without any training or prior information, except for having seen a few people drive before, you would be expected to simply figure it out. Sounds absolutely insane, right? Yet this is exactly what happens when you have children. If just anyone could drive, there would be so many traffic violations, car accidents, and fatalities, the roads would be safe for no one. And yet, they let completely clueless people like myself be a parent. It's a good thing my wife is part of the parenting equation, because I'm not sure any of my kids would have made it past their first few days of life if their survival had been wholly dependent on me.
Sadly, that's the truth.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, hon.
Thanks for building me up here.
Yeah, no problem.
Yes, I grew up in a family of 7 kids, and I had both a younger brother and a younger sister, but by the time my wife Lily and I had our first child, I hadn't been intimately involved with caring for a baby for about 2 decades. As a 7-year-old, I was aware that my mother was caring for my baby sister and then my baby brother after that, but I doubt whether I had so much as changed a diaper before Lily and I found out we were going to have a baby. That is a day I will never forget. Lily and I were living in Billings, Montana at the time, and we had been married for a few months. It was mid-October, and I was preparing to leave for a weekend of hunting in Poverty Flats with my dad and brothers. There had been signs that Lily might be expecting. She was moodier than usual, felt nauseous every time she smelled anything I had cooked, and was always tired. I would later find out morning sickness kicks in after about 6 weeks of pregnancy for most women, and Lily's nausea had more to do with my cooking than her pregnancy. As I was packing up to go hunting, she announced that she had picked up a pregnancy test and was going to take it before I left. At that point, I experienced a wave of emotions. A few minutes later, when she took the test and revealed the positive result, I was crushed by an emotional tidal wave. Excitement, anxiety, doubt, fear, and a host of other feelings welled up inside me, and as Lily and I hugged and laughed, a single thought filled every corner of my mind. You're going to be a dad.
So I have to say, again, I have to emphasize this. We've been married for 3 months. 3 months. And I felt the need to take a pregnancy test. I was so nervous. I took that test and I closed my eyes and I was so nervous to open them. And when I did and I saw that positive result, all I wanted to do was cry. I was not ready to be a mom.
Yeah, gosh, what took us so long, honestly?
Yeah, what were we doing?
3 whole months? Yeah.
Oh, man.
Then I had to drive for like 2 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, to think about it all.
Yeah. For a moment, I considered canceling my hunting trip, but since there wasn't much I could accomplish on Lily's behalf at that time anyway, we decided I should go on the trip as planned. The entirety of the 2-hour drive from Billings to Poverty Flats, the thought, "You're going to be a dad," ran through my head over and over. After I missed the turn from Rockvale toward the Wyoming-Montana border the second time, I managed to shake myself out of my mental shock enough to get onto the right highway. The big question, of course, was whether to reveal our news immediately to the family or to wait. Lily hadn't really told me one way or the other before I left, but since the first few weeks of a pregnancy are often when its future is most tenuous, I decided to keep our good news to myself for the time being. As a result of my anxiety over the exciting secret, I of course managed to miss every shot I took on that trip. Or at least that's the excuse I provided to Lily upon my return. Soon we had an ultrasound and determined that our new arrival would be a boy, which is something we've done 3 times now. But we were overjoyed.
But for the first one, we had a gender reveal.
Yeah.
And that was exciting.
Yeah, no one's
Your
been
sister did
surprised
amazing.
ever since.
Yeah. You have to tell them. Have you told them that your parents only have grandsons?
Oh, I don't think I mentioned that.
And then they have a granddaughter, but not biological. But
Yeah. So my parents have 8 grandsons by blood, and their one granddaughter is well, he's my foster brother Jacob's daughter. So, yeah, 8 boys and 1 little girl. So, but we were overjoyed. In the months leading up to the birth of our first son, whom we decided would be called Al Jr., Lily read books about babies, subscribed to the What to Expect When You're Expecting pregnancy tracker, and constantly compared the size of our son to a series of fruits and vegetables.
I did not.
Yeah, you did.
I did not.
Yes, you
I
did.
did not. Well, at least I was actually doing something. Unlike you.
Well, this is your line right here.
What? I don't know where we are.
Oh, it's up. Oh, there at the top. You see it in the quotation marks?
Over here?
Yep, right there.
Can you believe it, Al?
She would say.
Al Jr. is the size of a walnut now.
I nodded my head in appropriate disbelief at this incredible news, thinking that if our son was currently the size of a legume, then I had plenty of time before he actually made an appearance. With this in mind, I decided I probably didn't need to hop on board the baby train and start reading up on parenting. See, exactly, I had some time. I did take the time, however, to build a small cradle and daydream about all the hunting and fishing I would do with our new boy. I imagined hours of hiking through the mountains, teaching him how to cast a fly line, and showing him how to fire his own rifle. In the midst of these musings, my wife busied herself with purchasing every baby outfit she could lay her hands on and amassing enough boxes of diapers to build a small castle. By that time, we had gone back to college in Rexburg, Idaho, and we were both up to our necks in our undergraduate programs at BYU, Idaho. As time ticked down to the date when the baby would arrive, we became more aware of how quickly the 9 months were going by.
Look at this.
Lily shouted one morning as she contemplated her reflection.
It looks like there's a watermelon in my stomach.
And she laughed exactly like that when she said it.
Oh, yeah.
And she was right. Somehow that walnut-sized baby had grown straight on past the avocado stage, then the orange stage, and passed right on through the grapefruit stage with hardly a second thought. Now we were at the watermelon stage, and I was beginning to realize I still hadn't read any of the books, and all I knew of What to Expect When You're Expecting was that babies are remarkably easy to compare with fruit until you actually have a live one in your home. One day in June, I pulled up to the university just in time to greet Lily as she trudged out of her psychology class. She was 9 months pregnant, and walking was becoming more and more challenging. I hopped out of the car and gave her a peck on the cheek before asking, "How was class?"
It was great while I was there.
She huffed.
Anymore, I have to go to the bathroom about every 20 minutes.
I grinned. It was amazing how often a pregnant lady had to go to the bathroom. I guess when all your organs are competing with a baby for room inside of you, some things have to get smaller, and your bladder is one of them.
Oh my gosh.
It's true. I pulled my bicycle from the trunk and gave Lily one last kiss.
And we really don't know what we were thinking about this. This is silly. See you after class,
she said. If I had known any better, I would have just driven home with her right then and there. But in our naivety, we continued on as if this were any other Thursday. In her doctor's appointment the previous afternoon, the OB had informed Lily that she could have a baby at any time. But we figured we could easily get to the hospital when the time came, and decided to continue with our classes as usual. Lily drove off to the apartment, and I walked my bike to a rack, then hurried into my class. I had been riding my bike partly because it was easier for Lily not to have to do the stairs down from the apartment, to get in the car, to drive up to campus in order to pick me up, and partly because I was trying to save money on gas. About halfway through my class, my phone rang. I peeked to see the caller ID, and when I saw it was Lily calling, my eyes widened to the size of dinner plates, and my heart jumped into my throat. I had at least had the presence of mind to warn my professor a few weeks previously that the day might come when I would be called upon to rush my wife to the hospital. And so when I bounded out the door with my cell phone in hand, He simply nodded at me and looked a bit alarmed.
All right, I got to share what I was doing during this time. So I went home. I was supposed to be doing homework, but instead I looked up, what can I do to get this baby out of me?
Just type that right into the search bar.
Yeah. And one of the wonderful suggestions was to squat. So I thought, Connor's not home. He's at school. This would be a great time to squat, obviously. So I squatted 3 times, and my water broke on the third time, and I about had a heart attack because I didn't really understand what water breaking meant until a gush of water was coming out of me. So yeah, I was kind of freaking out when I called Connor. So.
Yep. I remember it well.
And he needed to hurry.
Out in the hall, I pressed my phone to my ear. "Hey, dear," I said urgently. "How's it going?"
I forgot I said that. I was bleeding. "I think I hurt him,"
she wailed. That wasn't a very good wail.
I know. I didn't see. Okay. I don't know how to do that.
Just wail.
Wail.
Yeah.
"I think I hurt him."
Much better.
Thanks.
She wailed. "Okay, calm down," I said, trying to sound calm while my heart began pounding frantically. "What happened?"
Oh, we had this. "I was reading online,"
she began,
"and there was a lady who said the doctor told her she could have a baby any day, and she ended up waiting for 3 weeks. I didn't want to wait 3 weeks, so I did 3 squats, and I think my water broke."
"Your water broke?" I blurted out, alarm bells going off in my head.
"I think so, but there's a lot of blood,"
she moaned.
Ugh. "Al, I think I hurt."
"Pregnant women do squats all the time," I quickly reassured my panicking wife, although I had really very little to base that statement on, given
Were you just standing the whole time we were talking?
Yeah, I was just standing in the hall.
Oh, that's very effective. I thought you were walking toward your bike during this whole conversation.
No, I left my stuff in the class. I didn't know what was going on, so.
Okay.
But I tried to reassure you, even though I had very little to base it on, given that I had read exactly 0 of the baby books. At least we had taken that 2-hour Lamaze class.
"Oh, I don't know, but we should get to the hospital,"
she said, growing more frantic by the minute. "Right. I'll be there in a few minutes. Did you call the hospital already?"
"That's my next call after you,"
Lily replied. I rushed back into the classroom and the professor gave me an expectant look. "I need to get my wife to the hospital," I breathed, an anxious grin splitting my face. "Congratulations," he beamed, and one of the girls in the front row clapped her hands with excitement, her brown curls bouncing around her beaming smile. With all the speed of a rodeo clown running from a bull, I scooped up my backpack and sprinted from the classroom. I was halfway down the first flight of stairs when I heard a voice behind me. You could do Maggie.
Okay. "Al, didn't you ride your bike to class?"
It was Maggie, the girl who had clapped when I announced I was heading to the hospital. A sinking feeling dragged me back down to earth. Oh yeah, I did ride my bike.
"Can I give you a ride?"
I quickly accepted Maggie's offer and waited impatiently while she grabbed her bag from the classroom. With all the adrenaline coursing through my veins, I was ready to sprint down the stairs like Jackie Robinson stealing second, but discovered that Maggie wasn't quite as wired as I was at the moment. It felt like just getting out the door of the building took us an hour, and walking, my wife and baby could be dying at that instant, and we were actually walking across the parking lot to Maggie's little red pickup truck took at least a decade.
My husband has great manners, but at that moment I really wish he didn't have great manners. Oh, am I supposed to?
Yeah, this is Maggie.
Oh gosh, this is so exciting.
Maggie trilled, while I did my best to refrain from seizing the keys from her hand and burning rubber out of the parking lot. I gritted my teeth and reminded myself that no matter how worked up I was, I would still likely make it home faster in a vehicle than I would on my bike. But with the way my heart was racing, I probably could have ridden circles around a Ferrari.
I would love to see that.
When we finally got into Maggie's truck, I could have screamed when she took a second to fiddle with her seatbelt. I clenched my fists and took a deep breath, and finally, we were on our way.
Where to?
Maggie asked. Just down the hill, to the Wagon Wheel Apartments, I replied. At least when she got behind the wheel, she didn't lollygag. Maggie cruised the approximately 1 mile to our apartment building, where Lily was waiting anxiously outside, her hands cupped under her bulging stomach and a grimace of worry plastered across her face. Thanks so much, Maggie, I shouted and bolted out of the ancient little pickup truck.
You're welcome,
she called after me brightly and pulled away. Are you all right? I asked Lily, who looked just as nervous as I did.
I don't know,
she said, the concern obvious in her voice.
Who was that, and what took you so long?
Oh, that was Maggie from my class. She gave me a ride so I didn't have to ride the bike.
Oh, that was nice of her.
Lily winced.
I think you might have been faster on the bike.
I nodded in agreement and gave her a wry smile. Well, let's get over to the hospital. If Maggie had driven quickly down the hill from campus, then we flew back up it.
Slow down,
Lily cried as I blew through a yellowish, mostly red stoplight. Everything's gonna be okay, I said. We'll be there in 2 minutes. Are you having contractions? Lily nodded, exhaling slowly through her mouth, and I floored it. When we screeched to a halt in front of the hospital, I left the car parked in front of the automatic doors emblazoned with emergency in enormous red letters and escorted Lily to the desk. A bored-looking lady greeted us with a knowing look. Got your boring lady voice?
Oh, labor and delivery.
That's pretty good. She droned.
Okay.
Yes, I nearly shouted. She sniffed and said,
Do you know where it is?
Lily gasped out.
Yes, we took our tour a few weeks ago with the Lamaze class. Okay.
The lady nodded.
Go right on in.
We went through a door and into a hallway where we took a gleaming elevator up 1 level to the labor and delivery wing of the hospital. Another desk guarded the entrance, and that was when we saw, to my great horror and surprise, that no one was seated there.
There's no one here,
Lily shrieked.
I'm going to have a baby in this hallway.
My mind was racing like Richard Petty, with my heart hot on its heels. There's gotta be somebody around here, I shouted. It's a hospital. I turned and looked frantically around me, then backtracked the way we had come from the elevator. There, on the left-hand side of the hall, I saw an open door, and inside a slender nurse in blue scrubs was seated at a little table with a large salad. Excuse me, I blurted out. My wife is having a baby, and there's no one at the desk to let us in. The slender woman bolted from her chair, her fork and salad instantly forgotten.
There's no one there?
She asked.
There's always someone there.
Well, there isn't now, I cried. She rushed out of the room, and I fell into step beside her. Relief washed over Lily's face as we approached.
We called ahead. I thought they would be ready for us,
she wailed.
Oh, I bet they are,
the nurse said reassuringly.
It was a slow morning, so they sent the extra nurse on duty home.
She swiped her badge at the pad next to the door, and it swung open.
I'll take you into exam 1,
she said.
Let's see how far you are along. Are you hurting?
Lily shook her head.
Not really, but I think my water broke. I was doing squats and all this water and blood gushed out. Do you think I hurt my baby? I was so concerned about hurting my baby.
I know.
Not at all,
the nurse said.
It does sound like your water broke. Some blood is definitely normal.
We entered a small examination room with a chair and one of those beds that raise and lower with the push of a button.
Here's a gown for you to put on,
she said.
I'll get you some paperwork and I'll be right back.
Lily changed and lay down on the bed. "How are you doing?" I asked. Lily looked much more relaxed now that she knew she wouldn't be having a baby in a Pontiac Grand Prix.
We actually brought the truck.
Was it the pickup?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because I remember trying to get into the pickup while I was gushing, while water was gushing.
Oh, okay, it was the pickup. So Lily looked much more relaxed now that she knew she wouldn't be having a baby in a Ford F-150.
I'm okay. I still haven't really felt a lot of pain. So what if I'm not in labor?
I shook my head. Your water broke. You must be in labor. The nurse returned and handed me a clipboard.
She's in the system already, it sounds like, but we need her name and date of birth so I can admit you.
She turned to Lily and said,
"Let's see where we're at."
After a moment, the nurse looked up at Lily with wide eyes and said,
"Are you feeling any contractions?" I think so.
Lily said.
"Well, you are 80% of the way there. You're having a baby today."
Lily and I grinned nervously at each other, and the nurse escorted us back to a delivery room. As we went, she called out to the nurses at the nursing station, "She's dilated to an 8. What room is open?" The nurses launched into a flurry of activity, like a flock of bluebirds getting spooked from a telephone wire.
"Let's get her into room 5.
A tall nurse with a commanding air instructed us. We hurried down the hall to a room where a hospital bed sat with an array of screens and monitors next to it. An easy chair crouched in one corner, and the early afternoon sunlight filtered through a window.
"Okay, let's get you settled,"
the tall nurse said.
"Your doctor is on his way."
Lily nodded and lay down on the bed. She still looked worried, but I could tell she was glad we had made it in time. I was personally very thankful, since I wasn't sure how things would have turned out if we hadn't found a nurse when we did. As it turned out, I didn't have too much to worry about. We soon discovered that after the initial excitement of getting to the hospital and getting admitted, delivering a baby turns into a long waiting game. For the next hour, nurses came in and out of the room, taking Lily's blood pressure, peering at the little screens, and asking her if she was in any pain.
"I'm actually doing all right,"
she said.
"Really? I've never met someone who made it this far without feeling some major contractions. Do you want an epidural?"
The tall nurse, whom we came to find was named Kelly, asked. Lily and I looked at each other, and Lily nodded.
"Yes, I do. Even if I'm not hurting now, I'm sure I will before it's over." "All right, we'll get the anesthesiologist in here."
Childbirth wasn't what I had anticipated. The movies make it seem like women get rushed to the hospital, and within minutes they're pushing out a baby. In reality, after the epidural, things went a little more quickly, but it still wasn't over in an instant by any means. Even though it had seemed like Al Jr.'s arrival was imminent, it turned out that we didn't even reach the part where Lily had to push until about 5 p.m., over 3 hours after we arrived at the hospital. What's more, with the epidural, she hardly felt a thing. For most of the afternoon, I fed her ice chips and held her hand while she sat serenely in the hospital bed.
I should have slept more.
Yeah, you should have. We just didn't know.
Nope.
Finally, life got more exciting when the nurses checked on things and announced that it was time to have a baby. I thought that the time had come 5 hours before, but I was no less pleased to hear it then than I would have been to hear it at noon. The doctor came in and got things situated, and after about 20 minutes during which Lily pushed and I held her hand and did my best not to pass out, Al's hair was visible. "We've got ahead," the doctor cheered. I squeezed Lily's hand and shouted, "You're doing great!" Lily, in turn, crushed all of my phalanges and with an enormous final effort pushed out a baby. No words can describe the miracle of seeing your child for the first time. He was blue and red and came out wailing and covered in who knows what, and then the doctor was handing me a pair of scissors and instructing me to cut the cord, and the nurses were taking him, and Lily had collapsed back onto the bed and was breathing like a racehorse, her face red from the strain of the amazing thing she had just done, and it was just so crazy and amazing and wonderful and perfect. I couldn't believe it, and at the same time, it all felt so right and natural. I leaned in close to Lily and brushed her hair away from her face. I kissed her gently on her forehead and whispered, "You did amazing, dear. He's perfect."
Yeah, an epidural ain't nothing like a natural birth.
Yeah, that's true. As we just found out.
Yeah.
Yeah. William, we did all natural, so definitely different than the experience with the first one with Reuben. Lily's smile would have outshined the sun at the height of an Alaskan summer. Then Al Jr. was wailing for all he was worth, and the nurses weighed him. I pulled out my phone and shot a video that will forever be a family treasure. He was 7 pounds, 5 ounces, and I felt my chest swell with pride. I was a dad, a father. I couldn't believe it, but it was all real, so wonderfully, amazingly real.
And I was a mom. A mother.
Mommy and Daddy. Everything changed. Then they wrapped Al Jr. up in a blanket, that perfect little baby, and put a little hat on his head and placed him in his mother's arms. That is an image I will cherish forever. In that moment, that perfect moment, we were so happy. I felt my heart would burst. The past 9 months of doctor's appointments and morning sickness, the panicked rush to the hospital, the hours of labor, it all fell away in that moment. Later, when we were sleep deprived and learning how to parent, the joy of that moment kept us going, or it kept me going at least. It's a good thing there are moments like that, because they are what life is all about. Once things had calmed down and Lily and the baby were content, I settled in for a long, sleepless night on what the nurses called a hideaway bed, but really was some form of medieval torture device. I think the men get their part, however small, of the pain of childbirth when it comes to the hideaway bed or whatever metal folding chair is provided for them to sleep on after their wife delivers the baby.
Oh my gosh.
Sleeping was impossible anyway, because every time Lily and I had reassured ourselves that Al Jr. was not rolling over in his sleep and suffocating, and we finally laid down, a nurse would come in to check the temperature of everything that moved. Needless to say, it was an interminable night, and when the sun finally peeked through the window, I was glad to see it. Then came the most terrifying part. They had us sign some paperwork, watch a couple videos about choking and infant CPR that weren't anxiety-inducing at all, and helped Lily into a wheelchair. They put Al Jr. in her arms, and Nurse Kelly said some words that I will never forget as long as I live.
All right, Mr. Jones. Go ahead and push your family out to the car.
I took a wheelchair grip in each hand and pushed the heaviest wheelchair in the world down the hall.
I'm not going to take that as a fat joke.
No, definitely not. No, it's a metaphor.
Okay.
Yeah. I had my whole family in a wheelchair. I was like,
goodness, a heavy wheelchair.
Oh my gosh, it's the weight of responsibility. I was a dad. I had a family. Okay. Everyone knows what I'm talking about.
I'm sure.
Just like that, they let us take a brand new baby home. They didn't give us a manual or anything. They let us go. Just like that. Just sent us out into the world.
They did check the car seat, though.
Yeah, they made sure we could at least put him in a car seat.
Yeah, so that's all we needed.
Yeah, there was something there, you know. You need a license to drive a car, but no one bats an eye when you take your child home in one. I hope they know what they're doing. And that's it.
Amen.
Oh, man. That was almost 5 years ago.
Yep, in June. That's crazy.
Yep.
Our little guy's gonna be 5.
Yep. Ruben will be 5 here in a
Al
couple.
Jr.
Al Jr. Yep. Here in a couple weeks, our second one, Joseph, is going to turn 2.
Yeah.
And then we got Willie. He's brand new. Yeah.
Nothing better than 3 boys. I'm happy to be an all-boy mom.
Yeah. It's pretty great.
Boy mama.
Most of the time.
Well, I just think of the future when you and them go hiking and I'm like,
yeah, you just
spa day.
Yeah. It's
shopping day for mommy.
Just we certainly could have a girl, We're not thinking about having another child right now, though.
Nope.
Definitely not.
I'm thinking of 3 boys.
Yep. Well, thank you for doing this with me. It was way better with you along.
You're welcome.
And maybe you've heard a little bit of, yep, right there. That's William's contribution.
He's saying hi.
Yeah. We'll see if the editing software leaves his little coos and stuff in here. But he did make some noises. So.
Yep. He couldn't be left out.
Yep. Well, thanks for joining us. This was a lot of fun. We really enjoyed it. And I love sharing these stories with you and hope that you will continue to tune in and share the podcast with your friends. We also have some exciting news. We are going to be announcing the winner of the Untold Tales from This Side of Nowhere Fishing Failure Hall of Shame on our Facebook page here shortly after this podcast episode releases. We're going to draw from all of the entries that have been made and send the winner their very own Untold Tales from This Side of Nowhere Possibles kit and a winner's certificate. We still need to do the drawing, so we're not going to announce it on the podcast episode, but it will be released on our Facebook page. So thanks to all those who submitted photos, and we look forward to announcing the winner. So until next time, this has been another episode of Untold Tales from This Side of Nowhere, where we work twice as hard for half as much and still find time for the important things, like fishing. See you next time, folks.